milled the full contoured implant restoration. Notice the sprue where we left it. We couldn't change the sprue because of the index. That index that's inside that screw channel will only go on the Tibase in one direction. So all we're going to do is eliminate the sprue, and then we're going to take it back to the cast and see if we can get it to fully seat. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this sprue with a diamond burr. You don't want to generate a lot of heat, of course. Unfortunately, it is in one of those important areas. Might not be enough, but. So what I'm going to do now is see if I can get this crown to fully seat onto the Tibase and implant. So you could put it back on the crown if you wanted and then try to seat it this way. It's not cemented or screwed on, and so if you notice, the crown and Tibase are not fully seated, so our contacts are being hung up a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll take some AccuFilm, some occlusal paper, and just place it in between as I'm seating it. Just kind of pull around. Try the mesial and the distal contacts. Almost there. And you'll see that it marks. So there's the mesial contact, and there's the distal. So I'm just going to adjust those a little bit. Didn't feel like the distal was that heavy, so I'm just going to still adjust it just a little bit and see. Again, it really depends how you had your settings when you were before you milled it out. But I just did a minor adjustment and it's fully seated. And notice the tissue moulage is not on the cast. That gives me the visibility to see if they fully seated. And so I do the same with occlusion. I would just take the mandibular cast and do my articulating paper, bring them together and adjust my occlusion. Once that's all done and set, go ahead and take that and steam clean it, polish it. Well, I'd obviously polish it first and then steam clean it and then get it ready to cement. Alright, so we went ahead and crystallized the Emax restoration, crystallized and glazed, of course. We just set it back on the cast to make sure its seatings correctly before we go ahead and cement it to the Tibase. And so I will remove it off the Tibase. Notice the Tibase is still attached to the implant. Unscrew it, take the Tibase off. Now we're going to prepare the Tibase with aluminum oxide, and we're going to micro etch the surface, roughen it up, so I kind of get a little bit of micro mechanical retention when we cement it. And so we're going to go ahead and take it back to the micro etcher and follow me, and we'll finish that up. So you'll notice I have it on a lab analog. It's a Nobel BioCare Replace Select 5.0, so the lab analog is blue. The Tibase was attached by a lab screw, and went ahead and aluminum oxide micro braided the surface. It's a dull matted surface now. That gives us a roughened surface to allow the cement to kind of retain against that. So there's two ways to cement your Emax restoration onto the Tibase. And so I brought those out here. One, it's kind of the traditional way, is using your hydrofluoric acid gel. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to apply it for 20 seconds, rinse and steam clean it off, and then apply Monobond Plus for 60 seconds reaction time. That's one way to do it. That is on your restoration. And then apply Monobond onto the Tibase. The other way is you can do Monobond Plus Etch and Prime all in one. So if you're going to use this on your Emax crown, you would scrub it on for 20 seconds and then leave it for an additional 40 seconds. So a total etch time would be 60. That's if you're using the Monobond Etch and Prime. If you're just going to do the traditional with the hydrofluoric acid, that's only a 20-second set, and then rinse it off, so you don't want to over etch it. And then you would have to apply it Monobond Plus, both the restoration and on the Tibase. So I'm just going to go with the traditional for now. We're going to go ahead and etch it with hydrofluoric acid gel for 20 seconds. We're going to go ahead and rinse that off, and then I'll be back. So we came back after the hydrofluoric acid etch on our Emax, cleaned that off real nice, got it really dry. Now we're going to apply the Monobond Plus on the restoration and on the Tibase. If you notice, we showed a video of the wax in the screw hole access. If you do not put wax into that access, cement will get down in there and lock your screw out, which is not a good thing to happen during this procedure. So I'm just going to go ahead, I have a little dapping dish of Monobond Plus, just going to apply it onto my Tibase and also on my crown, let it react for 60 seconds, and then I'll dry off any remaining. And so we did our acid etching. I'm just going to go ahead and do the internal surface, and on the platform here, again, that's 60 seconds for both of those. And we're just going to let those dry for 60 seconds, and then that will air dry any remaining Monobond Plus. So we've allowed the Monobond Plus to react for 60 seconds, and then I air dried any remaining Monobond Plus, so now they're bone dry. So now we're going to use the cement to attach the Tibase sleeve to the Emax restoration. You're going to use multi-link hybrid abutment cement. It is a self-cure cement by Ivoclar. You have to purchase that separately. Don't use necessarily the multi-link dual cure that comes in the clinic, because that is visible light cure initiated. And so if you do zirconia, it's not going to initiate through. What I recommend is not using the tip that comes with the cement. If you'll notice, the tip has quite a big spacer. You can almost cement 3 Tibase restorations with just the amount of cement that fills up the tip. So my recommendation is just go ahead and use the cement syringe and apply it on a pad. And just go ahead and do a little tiny ribbon, and that's plenty. That probably 3 times that much would have been in your tip. And then go ahead and mix up the cement. I grab the Tibase and make sure where my little notch is, and that's where my crown and notch are going to come together. This is probably still too much cement. So the hybrid abutment cement comes in high opacity or medium opacity. Right now I'm just kind of simulating that. This is actually a transparent. It does have a little bit of yellow to it, and it's the light cured, so just kind of ignore that, but you get the idea. And so I just go ahead and wipe it around my abutment. Get that on there really nice. And then take my crown and orient it correctly to the little notch until it fully seats. And you'll notice the little excess cement coming out the side. It tells you to wait 2 minutes, allow it to react, and before you peel that off. And so since it's only self-cure, you can't light cure it to make it any faster. And so we're going to let it set for 2 minutes. Notice I'm holding it between my fingers. Some people have little clamps or little vice grips or something like that, but it doesn't hurt. I'm just holding them together. I'm not in any hurry. So we're going to wait 2 minutes. So we've allowed it to react for like 2 minutes. It's starting getting into a little doughy phase, and then just go ahead and take an instrument and then just peel it off. I think the instructions also recommends go ahead and place some glycerin or whatever so you can get that, get the air inhibited layer here. But I just kind of peel off the remaining, and then I kind of wipe it with tissue or something like that. But it just kind of peels off, and then I just kind of wipe off any remaining excess. Like that. And then we're going to hold it, and then I'm going to set it aside and let it finish curing for the rest of the morning or afternoon or whatever. I don't recommend going and delivering it right now. If you were, the cement's not fully cured and you can separate the Tibase. And then once that's cured, I'm going to go ahead and just polish under low RPMs around the collar of the implant, just getting any remaining resin cement away from that collar. Looks like we got it pretty good, not a lot going on there. So just gonna let it react and then good to go. So we've steam cleaned the restoration. We've taken the wax out of the screw access, and so now I'm just going to separate it off of the implant analog. I used a lab screw, and so now it separates. The other thing you want to do is once it's separated, you probably want to go ahead and steam clean it again, clean around the connections, and we'll do that later. But before you deliver, just kind of clean it off really nice. And I'm also going to use a lab screw, take it back to the model. I've actually put the tissue moulage back on just for fun, and I'm just going to screw it down. So that's the final restoration. It's fully seated, tissue moulage intact, and now it's ready to be bring the patient in and actually seat it. We did all the adjustments. You did the occlusion, you did the contacts. Really, the final delivery shouldn't take you all but maybe 5 to 10 minutes. You did all the work in the lab, and that's kind of why I like doing it this way with an actual model rather than virtually. In the beginning, we talked about you have the option to scan it intraorally with a scan post, but I still kind of traditional. I use a cast. Yeah, I got to take that impression, but I found with delivery, I've done all the lab work ahead of time, all the adjustments ahead of time, so when it comes to delivery, it's pretty quick. So hope you enjoyed the video.